there's a lot of chatter that the Niners coaching room could be changing. Now, I don't know if you heard this or not. Maybe you saw something about it. Maybe you didn't. But there was a very speculative report which is bouncing around the echo chamber that claims the Chicago Bears should, could, would, might call the Niners. And the Bears would call the Niners up and say, hey, we'd like to have Kyle Shanahan coach the Bears. Let's make a deal. You know how this works. You send a couple of scratcher tickets over. If you're Chicago, you send those scratcher tickets back over to the Bay Area, and boom goes the dynamite, and you get a proven commodity as coach. Granted, a guy that has not been able to win the big game as a coach, the spawn of another NFL head coach. But it was positioned, the report, as pure speculation by the muckrakers over at Pro Football Talk. But regardless of that, this storyline has created some buzz around NFL circles, and certainly worthy of a few minutes of our time here. So let us discuss the question: how does this report about the Bears making a run at a deal for 49ers coach Kyle Shanahan hit you? So I've got Pigeon, Alicia Keys, and good table manners. And we will combine all of these things together, and we will be like lambs at the slaughter, which is what the Bears have been for years and what the 49ers are right now. So a lot to unpack on this one. While it is easy for the naysayer to dismiss this as just purely clickbait, headline reporting, I have a sneaking suspicion, having worked in that world, that this is more of a Transformers storyline, meaning more than meets the eye. Connecting the dots here, it is more likely than not that someone of influence, someone on the inside, helped craft this train of thought. Likely connected to Kyle Shanahan. Now, using Mike Florio as a useful idiot, which many have said he is over the years, feed the pigeon, a messenger pigeon. You throw out the story, you say, well, what if the Bears, and they need a coach, what if they called the Niners? Would Kyle Shanahan want the job? Would the Niners be willing to trade him? You toss this out as a blind eye. I'm just talking. I'm just speculating. Harmless, it's benign, and you just toss it out there, see where it goes. Does it gain any traction? It actually makes some sense. It does. It makes some sense. Now, page 2 here, the question that must be answered, and I don't know the answer, and you don't know the answer, is Kyle Shanahan happy in San Francisco, and are the Niners happy with him? There's two sides to the room here. On one side of the aisle, you have Shanahan. Is he happy? On the other side, you have the organization. Now, I can't imagine anyone's happy because the Niners suck this year. So it's the great unknown. It would appear that in this moment, we do the show today, and in this moment, the 49ers' window of success has closed. That they got to a couple of Super Bowls. They got there with Garoppolo. They got there, of course, last year, losing yet again with Brock Purdy. So they got to a couple of Super Bowls. They ended up with Bupkis. Brock Purdy is about to get a bag, a giant bag filled with a bunch of dough. And the roster, if you look at the depth chart, they're growing old at several key spots. So they're growing old some key spots. We just discussed a few seconds ago the star running back, Christian McCaffrey, who has now broken down. You're now getting the full Christian McCaffrey experience. He's like the player he was in Carolina. So if you're looking to escape, if you're Shanahan, and you're looking to escape the Titanic before it sinks out in the ocean, the Bears' job would be a good lifeboat to get into. You feel me on that? Like, the Bears' job would be pretty good. It's chutes and ladders. Fresh start with a young stud quarterback and a team, in theory, that is climbing up the ladder, although you wouldn't know it based on their record this year, the Bears. They're climbing up the ladder rather than your current situation where you've already climbed up the ladder and now you're on a trash chute going the wrong direction. the Niners. And the other part of this, which is rather obvious, if you look at this from the outside and you're advising Kyle Shanahan, the reason you would be more likely than not to plant this story is cue the Alicia Keys tune, Show Me Love, right? Because this story, at some point, John Lynch is going to be asked, the GM of the Niners is going to be asked by the media dopes, hey, do you support Kyle Shanahan? If the Bears called the Niners, would you trade him? So then John Lynch has to say either we love Kyle Shanahan, we would never consider trading him, ownership loves him, and they would have to publicly endorse Shanahan, which is the most likely outcome, or he would say something along the lines, well, we're not at that point yet, we'll see what happens, but we, if Kyle's happy, we want him here, and give a vague answer. But in many ways, this is a play out of the college football playbook. You see this all the time in big-time collegiate football, where let's say you're the head coach at Washington. This just happened a few months back. You're the head coach at Washington, and let's say Nick Saban leaves Alabama, and they're interested, and so then the ball's in the court of the University of Washington. You're like, all right. You either get a raise and you stay at Washington, or you say bye-bye, and they give you a couple of Brinks trucks filled with cash to head to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and take the money and then last a couple of years and get whacked because you're not Nick Saban. All right, now last word here. The entire story involving an NFL coach being traded, the entire story brings up an interesting quagmire, a conundrum, if you will, that the question has to be asked, why don't we see this more often, where coaches are traded in the NFL? Now, it has happened. It has happened. John Gruden was traded. Bill Belichick famously traded from the Jets to the Patriots, the most famous coach traded of all time. And there have been some others. There's also been some near misses. The story was years ago, Jim Harbaugh, when he was with the 49ers, the Cleveland Browns tried to trade for him, and it was going to happen, and then it didn't happen at the last minute. The thing fell apart. But by and large, to answer the question, why don't we see coaches traded more often in the NFL? I have a theory on this. I'll run this by you here. My theory is good table manners. Good table manners. Out of professional courtesy, you don't flirt with someone who's married to another team, some other team's coaches. It is seen as a breach of etiquette, is what it's seen as. And when you consider the shortage of quality coaches, the supply chain shortage of coaches, it does make you scratch your head and like, what are we doing here? It's rather odd that has continued over the years. I've been doing this job a long time, and very rarely does it get discussed, a head coach being traded in the NFL. When you look around, aside from a franchise quarterback, and there's only a few of those, aside from a franchise quarterback, a top-level head coach, a quality coach, is next on the big board. Not a list, big board. Big Ben's big board. But the point is, a quality head coach, which is also hard to find. Right? There's a lot of jabronis, right? A lot of dingleberries, head coach in the NFL. A lot of them. You're much more likely to find another Matt Eberflus than you are to find the next Mike Tomlin or Sean McVay, right? The old line, you got to kiss a lot of frogs before you find a prince and all that. But a quality coach, so they're worth their weight in gold. They set the foundation, the environment. They make the right decisions on who to play and who not to play and all that. So when it gets time to hire a new coach, would you rather hire a retread coach who may or may not have had success in their last job, some unproven coordinator, some hotshot coordinator who's never been a head coach, or would you rather trade a third-round pick and a conditional draft pick for a battle-tested head coach with a track record of success? Heck, I would be willing to trade a first-round pick. Now, Kyle Shanahan is even though he's got his foibles, He's got his weaknesses among the NFL coaches. At least during the regular season, Shanahan has proven to be a pretty good coach in the regular season. There's some issues there in big games, going back to his days as a coordinator with the Atlanta Falcons. No need to go back down that road. But the point stands that if you need a head coach and you're not really sure, I mean, you can hire some college coach, but who knows if they're going to work out or not. It seems rather obvious. It seems rather obvious that would be the direction that you would want to go. We'll see if anything happens because of this report. But again, we always try to find out who leaked the story. And while many will say it's just a made-up story, I tend to think it's coming from the Shanahan camp. It's coming from the Kyle Shanahan camp. And there's something there. There's some meat on the bone with this. Now, how much meat is on the bone? I don't know. I'm not eating the meal. I'm not. I'm just talking about the meal, but I'm not actually. I'm fasting through the